What's up, everyone? Today on Contractor Growth Network, we're talking all about social proof, meaning between reviews, testimonials, expert witnesses, things like that. How do you actually use what people are saying about you to your advantage and close more sales? Check it out. Hey everyone, welcome back to Contractor Growth Network. I'm Logan.
And I'm Alex.
And today we're talking all about the idea of social proof. So social proof is one of those 6 principles that we talked about, I think it was last week, where it was, how do you get people to buy using persuasive tactics? And one of those persuasive tactics was social proof. So Alex, what does social proof mean to you?
Social proof, meaning you have the proofs in the pudding. You see other customers, celebrities wearing a product or using a service, and it kind of convinces you that, you know what, that's the right product or service for me.
Exactly. And this is one of those, this is another one of my favorite topics, and which is why we're doing it right after the other one, because it's so relevant these days. This is something that we're big on in the Blueprint program, which actually officially launched. So by the time you're listening to this, if you listen to it Monday morning, then Monday, the November 18th, 2019 is our first live webinar. So if you haven't signed up yet, contractorgrowthnetwork.com. And we're still running pre-launch. Nice, dude.
Link below.
Link below. Pre-launch pricing. So up to you to not miss the boat. So with social proof, the reason that we're talking about this is because there's an idea that is there's strength in numbers. And what that means is when birds fly, and there's a whole flock of birds, they all try to go to the center because they figure if they're in the center of everything, they're not first, but they're not last, they're going to be safe. Same reason why fish swim in schools. There's strength in numbers because if there's 5,000 fish, a shark can't kill them all. So the idea of strength in numbers is where social proof comes in. They did I was watching a show and they did a study or like a guessing game. They put a bunch of gumballs in a gumball machine and they had 20 people guess how many was in there. And they had anywhere from like 300 gumballs to like 4,000 was like the number of or like the range of guesses. And they added them all up and it came out to be, let's say, like it was like 2,525 was like the average guess. And the real number was like 2,547. So it was like literally 22 gumballs off out of 2,500, and it was the average of everyone.
Yeah.
So the social proof side of things, there's strength in numbers. That's why with stats and things like that, the more of a sample that you have, the easier it is to make a call of, does this work, yes or no? You can't go to the bar and try pickup line one time on a girl, and you get shut down and go, what, doesn't work?
Yeah.
But if you try it on 50 girls and you get shut down 50 times, then maybe it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or you're ugly.
You need sufficient data to back
Yeah.
it up.
Exactly. So, and that whole thing, and that's one of these 6 aspects of social proof, which is, like everybody can't be wrong. So that's kind of what we're talking about today is why is this important? So there are 6 different types of social proof. So Alex, what are those 6?
So we got expert, celebrity, user, wisdom of a crowd, wisdom of friends, and certification.
Okay, so let's run down that list. So we got expert. So who would be an expert? Like if I said, Alex, like tell me somebody who's an expert in something, what would you say for that?
I'd say a doctor. If
Doctor?
you want to talk about medical field, yeah.
So have you ever seen on like any commercial that is pushing whether it's like a type of pill or it's like a type of toothpaste where it says like 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this or like, 2 out of 3 doctors like that side of things.
Yeah, they're not having the Target checkout lady saying this is great Colgate toothpaste.
Exactly. And we put doctors on pedestals because they went to medical school, then residency, then they, or they interned before then. So it's like this whole thing. So who are we to go against them? I mean, so if they say the pill works, then why not?
Yeah, that's true. Do you consider yourself an expert at what you do? Or do you consider yourself more of just intermediate or whatever? I find it very hard. So for me as a video editor, I find it very hard to call myself an expert because that gives off the connotation that I know every single thing. Right. And you don't.
I would say in the grand scheme of things, if you looked at me versus the average person, then yes, I am an expert. But if you looked at me versus like, the other quote unquote experts, then I would say no.
Yeah.
So that's probably the same with you and video editing, where you versus, Steven Spielberg, probably not.
Yeah.
But you versus the general population, 100%.
Well, that's how you kind of have to use that example through like a homeowner versus a contractor, to
Uh-huh.
where you could be a DIYer,
Right.
but when they're asking a contractor, they're the expert to you. Like
Yeah.
they're the expert to you. So you have to think about it that way too.
Yeah. So experts are big, right? And if you ever watch like goofy infomercials, they use fake doctors who just portray, like it's an actor, and it says at the bottom, this is not a real doctor, it's an actor, but because it portrays it, it triggers something in your mind of like, well, it came from a doctor, that makes sense for me. So that's expert. What's the next one?
Celebrity
endorsements. So this is one we talked about with the 6 principles, but Shaq doing like Bayer back and body. It makes sense because he's a basketball player, but then Matthew McConaughey as driving a Lincoln.
Yeah.
He just, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, no, that I was about to say, like Lincoln, I don't know how luxury Lincoln is. I've never had a Lincoln, but it's
yeah. And it kind of shows you, well, if it's good enough for
Matthew
McConaughey, it's good enough for me.
Yeah. So I look at it as Honda has a spokesperson. He's an IndyCar driver, and he drives a Honda in IndyCar. So it's like that kind of makes sense for like the, I guess, more affordable cars to have like someone who drives it, not like a huge celebrity that's like, oh yeah, I could have a Lamborghini, but I drive a Honda. So it makes more sense. It's more believable that he actually does drive a Honda as his profession.
Yeah. So that one works. And I know with people like with Bayer back and body, like they're not like there's a very small population in the world that is going to play in the NBA. But the fact that Shaq does it, and that's Shaq's identity, everybody deep down kind of wants to be like a little bit like Shaq. Like he's got a pretty good life. So if it's good enough for Shaq, and Shaq is taking Bayer back or body, like why would we not?
Yeah, exactly. It's also big now with the CBD world now.
Yeah.
I know Gronk's a big advocate of that now since he's out of the league. So that's like, I know that's made a bunch of people with like their knee problems be like, well, if Gronk's had, all these problems in the world, I mean, it would probably work for me too with my little knee ache,
And this is the whole idea of social media influencers.
Yes.
Like, oh, so-and-so's going to this concert. Like Kylie Jenner's going to Fyre Fest. Like, of course I'm going to go. Because like if she's doing it, then I'm doing it to do it too.
Yeah. Even use that example like that, like these like festivals and concerts. I would never known of them if I didn't see them on social media with people.
Yeah, I mean it's a big thing. So what the celebrities are doing is big. So what's the next one?
User.
User is like the specific person. So a user could just be like, this is like, and we're gonna dive deep in like I think 4 or 5 of these where we actually talk about how to do it, for you. But a user is just like the individual. So if you read somewhere that somebody said, I've been having really tough back problems, and I've been going to work, and I'm unable to work, and then finally I use Bayer back and body, and now my back feels great. That's like the individual user that's actually gone through it and tested it. And when you read that, you go, oh, okay, that's for me as well, because I also have back problems at work. So that's just like the individual person that has gone through the experience, which is a lot of times in the form of testimonials or reviews.
Yeah, it's like that. This is not an actor or whatever on a commercial type thing.
Yeah, like legit. Infomercials do that where they like let somebody test it out on the spot.
Yeah.
And the person goes like with those cheesy sunglasses where it's like HD vision, and they put it on and they go, wow, like everything is so vibrant. Like that would be the individual user giving their testimony on it.
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, so a Google review would say, writing an
yes,
testimony.
an individual one. When you're looking at like an individual like one piece of somebody that's gone through it, that is a user.
Yeah, that's like I went on a job when I first got out of college, and the guy, all I could talk about was user-generated content.
Yeah.
Same type of principle.
Yeah, it's somebody who's gone through it. It's the people that do like before you buy like a camera, like before we bought the camera that we're using, I'm going on there and like seeing somebody who I have no idea who it is. It's not Steven Spielberg with cameras, but it's just some random person that is just giving a good review about everything, and I'm like, okay.
No like real affiliation to the company.
At all. Yeah, I have no idea who he is. He means nothing to me. But because somebody just, I sat there and watched the review, like, okay, that works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Cool.
So you got wisdom of a crowd.
Wisdom of a crowd is the same thing as strength in numbers. Okay. So if companies, and that's the big thing is companies do this for like, we've been around for 50 years. It's like, okay, great. But if they say we've been around for 50 years and, the 10,000 customers that we've served in those 50 years can't be wrong, right? And it's like, oh, well, that makes sense then. So it's the way that you use this, pretty much saying like, nobody wants to be first, nobody wants to be last, but if you're somewhere in the middle and everybody else has already done it, like people, like humans have a natural desire just to fit in. So if, it's like if everybody's going one way, you're going to go the same way. Like you don't.
With the grain.
Yeah, you're going with the grain. Like nobody wants to be salmon. Like you go to a new country and if nobody said, hey, look, you drive on the left side of the road here and you just saw everybody driving on the left side, you're going to automatically do that because you don't want to go against it. And nobody specifically told you, hey, you have to drive on the left side, but because everybody's already doing it, it's the same idea of like peer pressure. That's really what it comes down to is it's like, when you're in high school and somebody's asking you to go drink and you're like, well, and they're like, look, everybody's going to be there. You don't want to be the only one going against the grain.
No. So then next one's wisdom of friends. But so what's the difference between wisdom of friends and wisdom of crowd?
Wisdom of a crowd is just like the mob mentality. Like when riots happen, everybody's jumping in. Let's go do it. Wisdom of friends is more of a referral.
Okay.
So it could be your friend has gone through it. Your friend has experienced it. So user is like an individual person, whoever that is. Crowd is a bunch of people. So now it's a numbers game. And then friend is a referral or somebody going, Alex, do you like, your truck, like I know you're trying to get a new one, like you should go check out Chevy. That's wisdom of a friend.
Okay. So maybe more personal, more emotional.
Personable. So that's where, yes. So that's a big one because referrals are how most people generate all their work.
Well, you basically only need one friend to basically get you that wisdom, but a crowd, obviously a bunch because you don't know them.
Correct. Okay. And the user would have to be a very, like, it has to hit home. So for a user, if somebody's like, yeah, this Contractor Growth Network company is good. You're like, okay, great. Sweet. But you don't know them, and it's only one person. But if they said this Contractor Growth Network is great because, I didn't know what I was doing in my company, and then I finally signed up for that blueprint program, and as I went through it, it was actually more straightforward than I thought. And now that all my systems are set up, my brain is being seen everywhere. And if somebody who's going through those exact problems where nobody knows who they are in their town hears that, they're going to go, okay, that's me. Yeah. So it has to be, it's like levels of like specificity. So if a friend goes, hey, look, you should go check out the CGN thing, then people are going to go, okay, cool, I'm in. If a whole crowd does it, then they all can't be wrong, but the individual user is going to have like something very specific.
What am I missing out on, basically?
What am I missing out? Yeah, because if they just say, oh, they're good, you're like, well, that doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah. Okay, I get that. So the last one is certification. Certification
is more just like almost back to that expert side of things. It's not hiring an expert, but it's saying we are the expert. Meaning, at CGN we got awarded, 2019 Marketing Company of the Year or whatever, and it's like
JD Power Associates.
Yeah, I guess that's actually more award. But like awards and certifications are the same thing, where it just shows that like this company who gives out award with the JD Power and Associates. Even though it seems like it seems like Dodge, Ford, Chevy, they all win it every year, but that just adds a bit of credibility. And then the certifications, it's kind of back to that expert side of things again, where it's like, well, this guy's, it's like, well, this guy, he went to law school, and it's like, okay, he has his degree. Yeah, he has a degree. Well, does he practice? No, he's not a lawyer, but he has his degree, and you're like, okay, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So it's just putting somebody on a pedestal again.
So this is like you'll see these badges probably at the bottom of the website.
Yep,
or whatever.
100%. Like, hey, we're part of NARI, like the National Association of like remodeling. I don't know what the I stands for, but it's like the same deal. We're part of this program, or we're a certified aquascape contractor. It's like a lot of times these badges, people don't know what they mean.
But the fact that you have them.
But the fact that you have them, and there's a right way and a wrong way to leverage it. So we'll talk about that in our, when we dive deep, but yes, so those are the 6. So it's, if I can go without looking off your cheat sheet, number 1 is going to be expert, then celebrity, then what's the third one? User, then crowd, then friend, then certification.
Yeah.
Nice.
Turn of the century.
Yeah. So, what's the first thing we're talking about?
So add testimonials to your website.
Okay, so adding testimonials to your website, let's talk about that, because this is back to user, reading an individual person's something. So we had a client of ours, built them a website, and he was trying to sell them on the idea of getting their cabinets refinished. Well, on the kitchen cabinet painting page, refinishing and painting page, the page walked the client or the prospect through the process, how it all worked, and then at the bottom, we always put in testimonials just to back it up. And that prospect ended up moving forward with the project, and they said the page was helpful and the testimonial below it, what was it like built rapport with us, or like
built trust.
empathize with us, or I could empathize with them. And it was because the fact that they talked about like, hey, I was really nervous with my cabinets because I heard horror stories, have been to other people's places, but so and so took care of me. And this prospect was going through the exact same dilemma of, do I do this myself or do I hire this thing out? And they ended up reading this and seeing this and hired it out. And it was because that review specifically spoke to them.
Yeah, so they basically went through the whole process and
Yes.
said, I had these same worries,
Yep.
essentially indirectly speaking to the next customer down the road that sees this, and that answers all their questions, that this is the company for you.
Exactly. And the way to do this properly is going to be when you are doing on your website or a landing page. If you have a page that's all about kitchen cabinet painting, but then the testimonial at the bottom is all about like painting the shutters of a home, then there's a disconnect. Because I'm just like, hey, Alex, like, where should I go to get a chicken sandwich? And you're like, dude, like, Cracker Barrel has really good pretzels. And it's like, well, that's great, man, but like, I'm not looking. Yeah, exactly. I'm not looking for that. So to do something that's like that is continuous with that same idea is going to really help you out. And you also do this with, like in Facebook ads and stuff. If you're running an ad that is like trying to promote kitchen cabinet painting, then you can literally put like as a caption, if you wanted, like the quote as a testimonial that backs up whatever you're trying to sell, that may or may not be your unique selling proposition, but make sure that if you're using these user social proof, which is the form of reviews and testimonials, they have to be specific to whatever you are trying to sell, or pull at the heartstrings of somebody that they're going to go, oh, that makes sense.
Real quick, do you think it's more beneficial to have just the actual written quote, or have somebody read them like almost like a video?
So the way to do it is video is always going to be best, because that's going to be the least able to be faked. Then the next thing down would be an actual quote with the person's picture. And then the last bit would just be the quote.
Okay.
So person's picture, because you can build rapport and trust by seeing somebody's face. It helps a lot.
Don't get an actor if you're going to do
Yeah, I mean, people do that all the time where, like, they put up, like, stock photos. It's like, this is the person. It's like, I'm pretty sure that guy has, like, 48,000 jobs.
Yeah, I've seen that kind of guy Coco.
Yeah, exactly. But it's still, by adding a face to it, makes it seem more real.
I like the face to the Google review.
And it helps, because if you put a face in there, especially, you can play off demographics. So, like, for example, people trust other people that look like them and are in their same situation. So whether you like it or not, age, race, sex, all that stuff plays into advertising. So if I see somebody who's also a 28-year-old white guy that has a testimonial, I'm going to go, okay, that makes sense. Like, that's me. I'm a 28-year-old white guy. Like, that's me. But if it's somebody who's like, like an old black woman, it's different, because, we come from different backgrounds. So how could I possibly be going through what she's going through? This testimonial means nothing to me. Yeah. So you're going to have to play that game of, yes, there is a bit of ageism, sexism, racism in it, but it's just like, that's
human nature.
It's human nature. Yeah.
Psychology.
Like, people hang out with other people that look, talk, and act just like them. So if all your testimonials are from the demographic that you don't want, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. So basically, find the demographic you want and try to get those.
I mean, it's the same thing with like locations. Like, people, I'm like, let's say, for example, we wanted to hit like a certain neighborhood, but all of our customers are like 3 neighborhoods over. Like, it's tough to be like, yeah, we really want to work in this neighborhood, but all the testimonials are from 3 neighborhoods over. And they're like, well, that's great, but find me somebody in my neighborhood that you've used. Yeah. So that's where the neighborhood, like the neighborly effect comes in with like yard signs and stuff, where it's like, if it's good for my neighbor, then it's good for me. So same idea.
Makes sense. Yeah. The next one is use stats from clients on website or social media, which the wisdom of crowd. Wisdom of a crowd.
Crowds can't be wrong. So if you've got all these different reviews, like, instead of just putting like all the reviews, you could literally just put like, 4.9 star average out, from 109 reviews.
This is like the 99% customer satisfaction.
100%. Like retention rate of 97%. Like, if you have those stats, then, like, on average, we generate 104 more leads year over year based on 3,000 clients that we've worked with or whatever it is. So if you have stats that will show, another good way to do it is show some social proof, meaning if, like 75 bathrooms remodeled since 2009. And it's like, okay, so this is not their first rodeo.
Yeah.
They have done this many, bathrooms before, and it shows that you're the expert because you've been there and done that. So if you can spin that, I mean, that helps people. Now, granted, guys, with all this stuff, what this does is this sells you as a person more. This doesn't sell your product more with the stats, because if somebody's like on the fence of like, well, I don't know if I want to get a bathroom remodeled or not, if you say, well, I've done 75 of them, they're not going to go,
Oh, sold now.
oh yeah, I'm in. They're going to go, well, that's great, but I still need to figure out for myself if I actually want to move forward with this.
Yeah.
This helps with people that are like, well, I know I need to get a bathroom remodeled. Who do I go with? And they're going to go, well, that guy's never done it, versus, oh, that person's done over 75. Who are you going to go with?
Yeah.
So you still got to sell the product first, which is a whole other conversation. But if you have stats showing, we've done this many, or, this is our average star review or things like that. I mean, that's always great.
It casts a wider net than just the 3 or 4 you can fit on your.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because again, if 75 people have hired them, then 75 people can't be wrong for a big project like this.
No, especially like if 98% of them are happy, then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, the one person probably was just like, oh,
Yeah.
kind of BS.
It happens, and you can't make everybody happy.
No.
So
Which is understandable for that.
yeah, exactly, for like anything. So it's
Yeah.
like actually like this. I think the sweet spot on like reviews is like 4.8 stars, which is like an average of 4 5-star reviews and then 1 4-star review.
Yeah.
Because it shows that like you can't make everyone happy.
No.
And it's just not natural to like, if you have 1,000 reviews and they're all 5 stars, then it's like something scammy is going on.
Yeah.
'Cause, like,
doesn't seem real.
Yeah, and nobody's gonna believe that like you have that many reviews all perfect. So having like a 4.8 star rating, so when people like, and everybody gets mad at this, where they're like, you'll see a review that's like, they did a great job, they were on time, under budget, loved them, can't wait to use them again, 4 stars, and it's just like, are you serious?
Yeah.
What
Why'd you give them 4
why would you
stars?
give them 4 stars? But then what happens is people who are actually trying to hire that company, they see all these 5 stars and they look and they see, oh, there's 1 4-star. Let me see the 4-star one. And the 4-star literally just like they stop and read it and talks about how great you are. That's actually an advantage.
Yeah.
So having somebody who doesn't give you 5 stars and gives you a 2, 3, or a 4 because it's somewhere in the middle, which is way less common than 1s and 5s, people are going to stop and read that stuff. And if you have very favorable 4-star reviews, then that's a win.
Yeah.
It's a win. So
I get that.
yeah.
Get reviews from past customers.
So this just goes back to the user side of things again. When it ties into both user, but then also wisdom of the crowd. So make sure that when you guys are done with somebody, I see this all the time where it's like, we've been in business for 50 years. It's like, okay, great. You got 6 reviews on Google. How?
Yeah.
How do you have 6 reviews on Google? That doesn't make any sense to me. So make sure that you guys are asking this stuff. It always seems awkward at first, but if you truly understand like the benefit of asking for reviews, you would do it all day long.
You'd be surprised at like nowadays how a lot more of maybe like your older clientele that you've done past work for, how much more tech savvy they are about Google reviews, about Facebook reviews. Like I know with my dad, we get those a lot too. Like, oh, you guys on Facebook? We're like, yeah, but we barely post. Like, we're an oil company, but they like, oh, you guys on, like that's how they want to communicate now.
Right.
So it's leaning towards that way.
Yeah, and people will do it, and the problem again, because it's like, I think us business owners are like, oh, well, they just spend a bunch of money and I don't want to inconvenience them. And it's like, yeah, but it's like, for example, like if you don't want to do something, let's say you don't want to like call, like, let's say you're like, there's a prospect that like in a sales call, you're like nervous to call them. And they're like, and you're like, well, and you're talking yourself out of it. But let's say right now your back's against the wall and it's either call this person or declare bankruptcy, you're going to call them. So with reviews, if you truly understood how much reviews play into the future of Google, you would be asking every single person and then bugging people to, if they didn't review after they said that they would, to call them back and go, hey, could I resend you my link? Because for some reason you lied to me and said you're going to give me a review, which don't say that. But I mean, it's so imperative that you get these reviews from people. And then that's just in Google, but also like video reviews. I mean, we just talked about video testimonials. I mean, you want to talk about getting like kind of techie with this stuff. Imagine if, like, let's say like your number one objection from people not moving forward is you're too pricey. All right. Let's just say somebody comes to your website and they're afraid that you're going to be too expensive because of how nice your website's set up. So they just leave. Then they see a Facebook ad that is a video from one of your clients that's just talking about, hey, look, I was really nervous to hire Logan's Remodeling because they were so much more expensive than everybody else. But boy, am I glad, and let me tell you why. So what you're doing is you're actually able to leverage your past customers, experiences to overcome objections. And you can only do that by, one, getting on camera, and two, first off, asking them.
Yeah.
You have to ask them for them to actually say yes. And most people will. Most people will do it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how relevant this would be more because of these higher end jobs with contracting, but like it almost can replace a tip instead of them. People try to always give you like a tip.
Yeah.
Say, oh no, we don't accept tips, but just give us like a good review or review us on Google if you want to be like, give us a tip basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's because shoot, you go to a coffee shop or a bar and they like, can I get a beer? Sure. And they literally walk over, grab a beer, pop open the cap, and you hand it to you, and you tip them $2.
Yeah, you still tip them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I go to like either Chipotle or Moe's, and their promotion they got going on now is like you get a free burrito your next time up if you just go on like Google and review the staff, like review the service.
And if you notice, do they say review or do they say give us a good review?
Give us a good review.
Oh, do they actually say that?
Yeah.
Interesting. See, because I personally hate that.
See, I think it's more of just how they're. I don't think they mean good review. I think it's just how she says it. But now that you bring it up, it's like that maybe they are now thinking that it's a good review.
Because I know. Okay, so for Yelp, you cannot ask for reviews.
Oh,
you can't even ask for them at all.
Really?
Yes. For Google and Facebook, you can, but you cannot incentivize for good reviews.
Okay, so that's like if there's like a Yelp reviewer and they have like a good couple reviews on Yelp, restaurants will reach out and want them to come try their stuff. That's because they can't. That's their way of soliciting you to give us a good review.
Correct. So but they cannot Yelp. If Yelp finds out, because there's certain programs out there that will send out to your past customers and say, hey, how did this service go? Give us a 1 to 10, and then depending on what you score them, it's called or 0 to 10. It's called a Net Promoter Score. Depending on what you score them, if it's a 9 or a 10, it'll say, hey, great, thank you so much. Would you be willing to leave us a review on one of these sites? And Yelp went through this whole thing because one of those potential sites that you could click the link afterwards was Yelp. But then Yelp found out and blacklisted a lot of those companies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they no longer can do it on Yelp. You can still do it on Facebook and Google and stuff, but you cannot do it on Yelp because you can't even ask. But for Google and Facebook, you can incentivize to leave a review, but you cannot incentivize to leave a good review. I'm pretty sure.
So you can't. So they can leave your review, but if 1 star, you still have that.
Yeah, and now that I say, I'm not even sure if you can incentivize to leave a review, but you can for sure ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like if you did a good job, like you shouldn't have to incentivize.
Yeah. Like most of the time, Chipotle will give you 5 stars.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is now. Now I'm gonna watch for that.
You gonna think about it?
Because now I was just thinking, oh, that's just how she says it. But now I'm thinking, like, wait, what if I give you a bad review?
Right.
So that is interesting.
But then again, like, are you really gonna leave them a bad review and go back in and be like, hey, look,
Can I get my free burrito?
can I get a free burrito?
No, but it is interesting now. I might even ask them. What if I give you 1 star?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you want to be an asshole, you could. But yeah, I mean, like, just asking for them in general, and you'll know during the process.
Yeah.
You'll know, like, is this the right person for it?
Yeah.
Because, like, if you piss them off the whole time, should you ask them for a review? Probably not.
No, they probably target a younger demographic too. So.
Yeah, and plus, like, if a company came to me and I had a bad experience, they said, hey, could you leave us a review? I would say, look, I can. I don't think you want me to, though. So what should I do?
Yeah.
And then they're going to go, you're right.
Have some self-awareness of the
Yeah,
situation.
exactly. Like you should have. It's like, when somebody says, could I, would you, if I give you your name to like somebody for work, could I use you as a reference?
Oh,
like
yeah.
my dive coach was like that, where there were certain people that like he didn't like. Mm-hmm. And then they would ask him and he would just go, you know what? I don't think I'd be the best fit for this, because he didn't want to lie, but he's warning them, if you put my name down there and they call me, good luck getting the job.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. But he at least warns them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, probably ask somebody else.
Yes. So be self-aware, but ask for reviews because you can use them in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Next one is adding the certifications to your website. We kind of already talked about this.
Yeah,
But
if you got any certifications, I mean, like sometimes it's going to make sense. Certifications and logos are big ones. So if you're part of a, like the homeowner's not going to know what NARI is. The homeowner's not going to know that you're like part of like, yeah, I'm part of like the National Landscape Association, and like, but it's a good looking badge because it gives you a bit of being official. It's the same reason why being Google certified or Google verified for the Google lead ads is now big because people trust Google. So if you got certifications, then you must be doing something right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's like with the influencer thing. It's like the same with like Twitter and Instagram. They have
you're
that
verified.
blue check mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, what do you think about Chamber of Commerce, like that logo?
So the Chamber of Commerce, the way that I look at this is it just shows that because all Chamber of Commerce is networking.
Yeah.
But it shows to me that you're part of the quote unquote local community. So that taps into a different reason because as a business owner, I know what it really means because, I used to go to BNI, which is a networking group, and a lot of people in there are great. A lot of people in there suck. So it really comes down to, like the fact that you're just in the community trying to support others. And that's more of like oh yeah, they're a good person. But like as a business owner, if somebody said, well, I'm a BNI member, I'm like, okay, so that means that you were willing to pay the $700 a year.
Yeah.
Like it's like the BBB, exact same thing. That thing is a scam because what the BBB does is it straight up just like, if you look at like certain, like Home Advisor, for example, has an A rating on BBB. But if you actually look at the reviews of Home Advisor on BBB, it's not, I don't think they're even above like a 1.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like because of the way that they set up their certification is you have to check off like 12 points. And if you do all 12 things, then you're an A-rated business. And the BBB also is just one of those things that like, I think just a group of people said, hey man, I got an idea. Like it's not like food critic went to food school and a business critic went to business school to learn how to rate people. I think it's just like,
I got a good idea.
yeah, I just, hey man, like want to make some extra cash, like not a pyramid scheme, but yeah.
Almost. So there's in my hometown, small like little main street. You have to be in the Chamber of Commerce to have a storefront on the main street.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That sounds like the mafia.
Yeah, almost.
Well, you're from New York, so
yeah, that might work. I think there's some loopholes, but it's like they have like a whole sign in the middle of Main Street that has like all the companies that
really
are in it, and it's basically every single one that has a Main Street storefront. So I don't know what the deal is there. My dad used to be in it. It's the same thing like you. It's just networking.
Yeah.
But I also heard people always try to like with a good company like, oh, they're in the Chamber of Commerce, so they're good. I'm like,
right.
That's not really what that means. So that's why I was interested about knowing that.
Yeah, I don't like. I know my mom's in one. I think I know people that like have done it, and they're like, and I think it really is just networking. I've never personally been in it, so I can't like totally attest to it.
Yeah.
But I've always heard it's very similar to BNI, which I was part of.
Yeah, my dad got the same kind of like feedback that you got from like BNI kind of.
Yeah.
It was like, it's good for a couple local businesses, but then at the same time, like once your name's out there, you don't really need it anymore. And it's like it's more like business to business type stuff.
Well, so it was good because it taps into wisdom of a friend.
Okay.
So by getting your stuff out there, the problem with us, the reason that I left was that we're not a local business.
Yeah. We're all over.
Yeah, so like, for Full Sail and CGN, the idea is I could either take over like, of all the contractors out there, only 1% want to get their shit together.
Yeah.
Right? So I can either try to shoot for the masses, which is 1% of the US, or I could do 1% of Charlotte. And one of them is a hell of a lot larger of a pool.
Yeah.
So that's why I left, because I was like, well, I'm not a local business. But it does, as far as the referrals go, because it adds, again, that accountability into it. Plus, it adds the wisdom of a friend side of it into it as well. So that is big for BNI. So whenever people or contractors come to me and they're like, well, I don't have any money, what would you do? I'm like, are you in BNI? And they're like, well, I've been thinking about that. I'm like, it's going to cost like $700. It's going to take up a couple hours each week, but it's going to get your name out there. And then it's also big on like building connections.
Yeah.
So if you can get in that world of like, if you're a painter and you meet a GC in there and and then you like, they even had like their own little group. So like the real estate agent would always hire the painter in there to come in, and like, so it was like a good little.
So you had contractors in your group.
Yeah.
So,
We built a couple websites for a couple of them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was good, but then it's just like, okay, great, but I could also then just like venture out into the rest of the world, and then you know.
There you go.
So that's why. But yeah, like BNI, like that stuff's good for like referral or wisdom of a friend, because it also adds the accountability. So like if I go, Alex, you know, I need a new dentist, and you go, well, go see you know, Melissa the dentist, and then I'm like, okay, cool. The next time you see me, and you're like, hey man, did you go see Melissa the dentist? And if I'm like, no, I didn't, like I just let you down.
Yeah, you're like, oh, thanks, man.
Yeah,
I told us you were coming
exactly.
In.
So
Super
like,
excited for you. Yeah.
so that's why that stuff works. And you know, I was talking to a client yesterday, and he's like, dude, he's like, all my big projects are coming from referrals.
Oh.
I'm like, okay, let me ask you, is it a referral? Well, somebody just calls up their friend and says, hey, I'm looking for a landscaper, or is it because it's somebody that was in that person's home in the backyard and then said, wow, who did your landscaping? And he's like, it's the latter. Like somebody has to be in the space. And it's like, great, because the value is created after the experience. So that's big. So it's actually the whole idea of what we did with that the Facebook ad, the whole campaign where Parade of Ponds. Yeah, because it's like you're using social media to drive people to go experience beauty and things like that. And you would never get them there without advertising on Facebook and email and stuff like that. But it's very hard to close somebody on a $250,000 backyard using a Facebook ad. So you actually just leverage it. That is how you initially push people there. So it's like you using social media to get people to the 2-yard line. And the 2-yard line is them actually showing up. And then when they're there, it's easy to get them in the end zone.
Yeah.
That's a sports reference.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sports.
Yeah.
We're an athletic podcast. And the last one was join networking group. So we just nailed that one.
Yeah, we just nailed that one. Yeah, we just flowed right into it. So, yeah, I mean, like the social proof side of things is big, guys. A lot of times it's less about, it's more, it's like in every sale, there's 2 sales. One is the sale of the product or the service. Then it's the sale of the person. So, you know, if you want to go get ice cream, then you're like, well, do I go to Jenny's? Do I go to 2 Scoops? Do I go to Baskin Robbins? But if you're walking past Baskin Robbins and you're not really in the mood for ice cream, it doesn't matter what store it is because you don't want ice cream in general.
Yeah.
So that's where the promotion stuff comes in, which is like, hey, look, I know you're not in the mood for ice cream, but today's buy one, get one free, and nobody wants to miss out on a deal.
Yeah.
But
they'll get you in the mood for ice cream.
Yeah, exactly. So I know for me, like if somebody calls me up and they're like, well, Logan, I'd like to do this digital marketing stuff. I'm like, all right, what do you mean by that? They're like, well, you know, people have been telling me to do it. I don't really think I need to do it, but I just figured, you know, I'd give you a call and ask. And I know, like, there's no way, like, I'm not going to close that person because we're you know, we cost more than everybody else. And if they're not even sold on the idea, I mean, that's 2 sales in one. And I used to do that back in Indeed where, you know, if I called somebody who was already on Indeed with their company, it was a little bit easier of a sale because they already see the value of Indeed. Now I would just have to sell them on getting their job listing to the top for some money. But if they weren't even on Indeed, I would have to somehow sell them on the idea of, 1, putting their job on Indeed, and then 2, spending money. That's 2 sales. That's so much harder.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just not even mess with it.
It's like when you take your car in for an alignment and then you know, they want to push a brake job on you and you're like, oh, I need new brakes. All right, how much is that going to cost? And no matter what price you say, they're going to be like, oh, because they weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
So it's like the upsell part of that too.
Yeah,
like,
it's a double sale. It's tough. But if you go in there for new brakes and they're like, yeah, it's going to cost, you know, more than you thought. And it's like, well, I know I got to get the brakes anyway. And it's really come down to, like, this is like an analogy my dad used, but it's kind of like the mindset that you use when you drive to a car dealership to buy a new car, but you drive there in your current car. It's a completely different sale than if you had to get a ride there or had to Uber there because you don't have a car, because one is a purchase out of necessity and one is just a purchase out of pleasure or wanting a new car.
Yeah. So like in that case, you won't see people rush into you if you Ubered there, basically, because they know you're looking for just something to drive. Let alone if I'm looking to upgrade from my Camry to a Tundra, they're like, oh, okay. So you might get salesmen more flocking to you.
See, it's the opposite in my opinion.
Really?
So, yeah. Okay. So like think about this. So if like for a new phone, you go to the Apple store and your phone just broke. Is it going to be easier to sell you a new phone if your phone just broke? Or is it going to be easier if you've got the iPhone 10 and now they want to upgrade you to the iPhone 11?
I think it's easier if your phone just broke.
Correct. So it's the same thing with the car analogy where it's like that's pain versus pleasure, which is selling a roofing or siding. If there's a hole in your roof, it's easier to sell a roofing job versus, hey, yeah, like the paint on your walls are a little bit outdated. Do you want to upgrade? And they're like, well, I've already been living with outdated for 13 years. What's another year?
Yeah.
But if you got a hole, you got a problem. So that's
okay.
Yeah. So that's like driving up with like, yeah, my car is just a little bit old, not really feeling it. Versus, hey, my car broke down, or I don't have a car and I have work tomorrow.
Okay.
Which is how I bought my car at CarMax, because I knew I went in and because I didn't have a car, because I literally just sold the other one back when I was living in San Francisco, moved to the East Coast, and I had to go to work the very next day. So I went into CarMax, and in my mind, I'm like, I'm getting a car no matter what.
Yeah, I have to leave here with
Like,
something.
I literally have to leave here with something. Whether I sign something and they give me a rental, I have to leave here with something.
Yeah.
So that's a completely different sale. Then the reason that we bring this up is with these referrals and all the social proof, if, yes, you can have the celebrity endorsement, all this other stuff, but if they're not really sold on the idea, it doesn't matter how much, if Shaq goes, get Bayer back and body, but I have no problems with my back.
Then why would I get Bayer back
Why would
and
I
body?
get Bayer back and body?
Okay.
So you have to make the first sale first.
Yeah.
Does that make more sense?
That makes way more sense.
Okay. Yeah. So
I just learned something.
yeah, there you go. We're doing it live. But I mean, most people like deal with that too, because like when I do these like sales role plays, as part of the CSA, we'll go through them, and sales role playing is tough. And a lot of times I hear people, and the whole idea of it, just a quick backstory, is with Contractor Sales Academy, they teach you how to pre-qualify just from the first call, because a lot of times there's not really the right fit with homeowners. Could be a tire kicker, could be somebody looking for the cheapest price, but you need to first sell them on the idea that they have to buy your product. So when I do a sales role play, somebody will be like, all right, Logan, I want you to pretend like you're a homeowner buying a new kitchen. I'm like, okay, cool. So then, we go through it, and they're like, all right, Logan, how can I help you? And I'm like, well, I'm looking to get a new kitchen installed because mine's is pretty outdated. And they go, okay, great. What are you looking for in a contractor? And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, yeah, like who are you going to hire for this? And the reality is, which this should be a whole other podcast, is that I'm not even totally sold on the kitchen idea. I just said it's outdated. I didn't say my kitchen blew up. Yeah, I'm just saying it's outdated. So you have to first sell me on the kitchen. Let me dream up the kitchen. Let me inspire hope in myself about this kitchen. Then pivot over to the who you are as a person. So with this stuff, social proof, it's great, but somebody has to be in the mood first to want to hire this product, and they're just on the fence of, well,
This is going to convince them
yes,
to go with you.
Yes, this is getting them from the 2 to the end zone. Another sports reference.
Sports.
Football.
Football.
Yeah.
Really no football.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of how social proof is really done, per se. Kylie Jenner's not going to go on there and say, oh, yeah, I'm going to this concert. And unless you're like somebody who likes going to concerts, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
But if Kylie Jenner's going, you're like, okay, now I'm going to go. But if you weren't somebody who wants to go to a concert, not going to work.
Yeah. I am fascinated with the social proof principle. I know you liked scarcity, the last podcast. I like the social proof part. I think it's very interesting how it convinces people, like what convinces them to do it.
Well, it's like the whole thing of like, oh, like in the 60s, like, oh, you're just a sheep. You're just going with the man. And it's like, yeah, but like their strength in numbers, like the sheep are the ones making the money, and the people who are calling the other people out, like the salmon going against the stream, you're the ones that are, just kind of on the sidewalk. So
Antonio Brown.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, like look at him, like Antonio Brown is calling people out, calling out the NFL. Everybody, oh, I'm not doing this, and it's like, well, great, man, you don't have a job.
Yeah.
And you just, you lost collectively like $130 million this year.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's strength in numbers. Ask your past customers to give you reviews, and then leverage those reviews appropriately, so that way if somebody is kind of on the border, they're going to go with you. Cool?
Makes sense with me.
All right, guys. Do us a favor. Go to contractorgrowthnetwork.com right now. If you want to learn, if you really want to put this stuff into place for yourself, this is one of the sections that we talk about. We talk all about websites, and then reviews as well, and actually show you step by step to make sure that you're doing it. So if you want to take this principle, I mean, right now at the time you're listening to it, it's still $79 a month. If you don't make at least 10 times that using this stuff appropriately, then give us a call back and we'll hook you up. So it's super straightforward. Contractorgrowthnetwork.com.
Yeah.
We good?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, guys.